не все. Hello, good evening, everyone. Welcome to this webinar. My name is Dr. Alisa Zavilova. I am the founder and owner of Calgary Essential Language Solutions. We are a private language school based in Calgary, Alberta, and we offer English as a second language, French as a second language, and Spanish classes for adults. I am joined today by my colleague Andrei Zavyalov, who is the owner of Rose Bay Canada Immigration Services based in Toronto. And this is our third webinar of our, I should probably say, spring-summer series. Thank you so much for joining us this Sunday evening, for making the time. I would also like to say that this meeting is being recorded, so everyone who has registered and wasn't able to attend the live webinar this evening will receive a link to the recording. Okay, we have scheduled 1 hour for this webinar. Please feel free to reserve your questions for the end of the webinar. You can also type them in the chat, but we will try to address them probably towards the end, right? Andre, we'll see how it goes, but we usually do it towards the end. We will keep track of all your questions and respond to them. Should you have additional questions, you're always welcome to email Andre, and he will get back to you. Okay, so I see we have 9 people, it's almost 10. Could you maybe just quickly in the chat let us know where you're joining us from? Maybe say your province and city where you're currently located. I imagine most of you would be either Alberta or Ontario, but just out of curiosity, can anyone type your province and city? And please keep your mics muted if possible. You also don't have to turn your camera on. You can turn off your video. Okay, Salma is in Calgary, and Salma is also one of our students. Hi, Salma. Okay, anybody else? Which province or city you're in? Everyone seems to be shy today. No energy to type. Is it the heat wave? No energy to type.
It's the weekend.
It's the weekend. Okay. Dmitry says he's in Ontario. Okay. Hi, Dmitry. Long time no see.
Hi.
How are things in Ontario?
I guess you are not affected by the forest fires, are you?
Oh, yeah. We're not. We could feel some smoke, but yeah, fortunately. Which city are you in at the moment?
Kitchener, Ontario.
Kitchener.
Yeah.
Okay, Valerie says Edmonton, Alberta. Okay. Anybody else from Ontario in the audience? Mingan, which city and province are you in? Mingan, I hope I'm pronouncing your name properly. Okay, so since I believe that's it for now, we'll probably just move on to the main part of the presentation, and I'll let Andre take over.
Thank you so much, Alisa. Thank you so much for the introduction, and it's a pleasure to have you this weekend evening. And the topic of our today's presentation is family sponsorship and super visa, how to help your loved ones stay in Canada. So yeah, we will be talking mostly about sponsorships and sponsorships of spouses, common law partners, conjugal partners. We will also briefly touch parents and grandparents, and then we will smoothly move to the super visa, which is related to parents and grandparents only. Just a brief note about me and Elisa. We have the same surname, but we are not related to each other at all. We are just two very good friends who met each other here in Canada. So yeah, we are not related in any other tie except of our friendship. And this friendship is already 14 years. Yeah, we got to know each other when we had an internship in the House of Commons of Canada, in the Parliament of Canada, and we were quite surprised that we have the same surname. So yeah, our first topic for today is family sponsorship, and in particular, sponsoring your spouse, common law partner, conjugal partner, or dependent child. In general, I would say that today's topic is quite narrow, it's quite specific. It's far not for everyone. It's specifically for those who have Canadian relatives. And our first topic exactly covers spouses, common law partners, conjugal partners, dependent children of Canadians and of permanent residents of Canada. So if you are a Canadian or you are a permanent resident of Canada, then you can sponsor someone to become permanent resident. So you can sponsor your spouse or common law partner who lives with you in Canada and their dependent children. You can also sponsor your spouse, common law partner, or conjugal partner who lives overseas, meaning outside Canada, and also their dependent children. And you can also sponsor your dependent children regardless where they live. But with the dependent children, there are certain limitations which I will touch a little bit later. So as for the terminology, I know this slide looks a little bit massive. I will just cover the main parts of it, and well, this slide is probably only for those who would like to stop the recording when they will be watching this video and to read it by themselves. But the terminology is very important for family sponsorship. Terminology really distinguishes under which category you can apply and what may be your obligations if you meet the requirements and so on and so forth. So when it comes to the marriage, if you're married, you can sponsor the person as your spouse if your marriage is a legally valid civil marriage. It's very important, legally valid civil marriage. Marriages will be recognized for immigration purposes where the marriage was legally performed in Canada, or if performed outside Canada, the marriage must be legally recognized both in the country where it took place and in Canada. So, for example, let's say if you did have a church marriage, but you didn't have a civil marriage in a certain country, and that country does not recognize church marriages, but only civil marriages, then this marriage will not be recognized for immigration purposes. For example, it's the case of Ukraine or Russia. If it's church marriage, which is performed in Germany, it can be recognized as a legally valid marriage because Germany recognizes church marriages as civil marriages in most cases. It mostly depends on the province of Germany, but mostly yes. Also, it's important to note that IRCC, meaning our immigration department, does not recognize marriages performed outside Canada by proxy, telephone, fax, internet, and other forms of marriage, where one or both persons were not physically present at the ceremony. So ceremony is very important. It should be super crystal clear, visible that you were present at the ceremony, that both counterparts were present at the ceremony, and the ceremony was actually performed. It's not possible to, well, of course, like you can make a marriage when only one is present at the ceremony or no one present at the ceremony, but this will not be recognized for immigration purposes, like at all. That's why they're always asking if when you're applying for family sponsorship, if you were present at the ceremony itself. Ceremony is very important. Also, you can sponsor the person as your common law partner. It may be any gender, as long as you've been living or have lived with your partner for at least 12 consecutive months in a marriage-like relationship. So if it's a marriage-like relationship, which is longer than 12 consecutive months and you're living together, sharing the same premises, the same dwelling, the same apartment, whatever, then yeah, you may be considered as common law partners, and then your Canadian partner or permanent resident can sponsor you. If the person being sponsored is in Canada, that person can apply for an open work permit or study permit if needed. and they can do that after they get the acknowledgement of receipt of their sponsorship application. Another thing is conjugal relationship. It's a very narrow category. It's mostly for those who are unable to marry or cohabit due to legal or immigration reasons. And it's a conjugal partner is a person who is living outside Canada. It's never inside Canada. It's only living outside Canada in a conjugal relationship with the sponsor for at least 1 year. You can sponsor a conjugal partner if there is a significant degree of attachment between the two of you, implying not just a physical relationship, but a mutually interdependent relationship. And you've been in a genuine, real relationship for at least 12 months where marriage or cohabitation, living together, hasn't been possible for any reason. If you're applying in the conjugal partner class, the person being sponsored cannot be living in Canada. And just a very short example, let's say if it's a same-sex couple and they are not able to live together in the Muslim country because, well, Muslims are watching them very closely if they're living together or not, and they will question them if they're living together. But they are in a conjugal relationship. So if there is a Canadian in such a relationship and they're not able to live together, then this sponsorship will be able through the conjugal relationship pathway. So who can become a sponsor? The sponsor can be only at least 18 years old. It can be a Canadian citizen, a person registered in Canada as an Indian under the Canadian Indian Act, or a permanent resident. The sponsor should be living in Canada. If you're a Canadian citizen living outside Canada, you must show that you plan to live in Canada when your sponsored relative becomes a permanent resident. So let's say if you are living together in Spain, you're Canadian and your partner is Spanish and you are applying from overseas, you have to prove that you will be moving to Canada in order that Spanish citizen gets permanent residence in Canada. If you're living in Canada already, everything's fine. You cannot sponsor someone if you're a permanent resident living outside of Canada. So permanent residents can only sponsor when they are living in Canada. But citizens of Canada can sponsor from anywhere, but they have to prove that they will be living in Canada. Also, they have to be able to prove that they are not receiving social assistance for reasons other than a disability. And they must also be able to show that they can provide basic needs for themselves and those whom they sponsor, meaning their spouse or partner, their spouse or partner's dependent children, if applicable, the dependent children, if they're sponsoring only dependent children, let's say. So it's very important that they are able to show also the financial component. I will also stop on that separately. What is the minimum necessary income? So for certain types of applications, there is a minimum necessary income requirements. And if you are sponsoring a spouse, a partner, or dependent child, there is no minimum necessary income requirement which you need to meet. But despite the fact that there is no minimum necessary income requirement, you have to show that you have the money. So it's a good practice to show your bank accounts, to show your whatever you have, that you are financially independent. But you must meet the minimum income requirement if the spouse or partner you are sponsoring has a dependent child who has dependent child on their own. So it's also, again, like it's a very narrow category. In most cases, when it comes to spouses, common law partners, or dependent children, there is no MNI, minimum necessary income requirement. But if the dependent child has their own dependent child and you are sponsoring their parent, then yes, there is a minimum necessary income requirement. You can still sponsor if you're receiving maternity, parental, and sickness benefits paid under the Employment Insurance Act. These benefits also count as income for the purposes of meeting the MNI requirement. You can still sponsor if you're receiving regular employment insurance and federal training allowances. These benefits do not normally count towards income for the purposes of meeting the MNI. So if you have the requirement to meet the MNI, then you can count the first part, but you cannot count the second part into that. But again, it's a very narrow situation, and the majority of cases, they don't need MNI at all. But anyways, it's good to know that you have to show your financial side as well. There is a number of situations when you cannot be able to sponsor, and I'm not going to stop on this slide for a long time. This is again the slide for those who would like to stop and to read it themselves. But just to cover it very briefly, if you are in a default of an immigration law or a performance bond, you cannot sponsor. Also, you cannot sponsor if you have declared bankruptcy, or you are under a removal order, or you are in a penitentiary, jail, reformatory prison, or if you have already applied to sponsor your current spouse or partner and haven't received a decision, you cannot reapply. It's not necessary if there is no decision yet. Also, it's very important that you cannot sponsor if you were convicted of an offense of a sexual nature, a violent crime, an offense against a relative that caused bodily harm or threatened or attempted to commit any of the above offenses, depending on the nature of the offense, how long ago it happened, and if you received a pardon. Well, as you can see, this presentation has a number of links in it. You will get all the materials into your emails once we are over with the presentation. So don't worry about that. You will have everything and you will have enough time to familiarize yourself if certain situation from the slide clicks you. You also have several obligations if you're sponsoring someone. So if you're a Canadian or you're a permanent resident and you would like to sponsor your loved one, your spouse, your common law partner, your conjugal partner, your dependent children, you have certain obligations. It's not like you want to sponsor someone and this person becomes permanent resident. No, it doesn't work this way. You're always taking certain responsibilities and obligations. So when it comes to the sponsorship, you must sign an undertaking promising to give financial support for the basic needs of your spouse or partner and their dependent children, which are food, clothing, shelter, and other needs for everyday living, dental care, eye care, and other health needs that aren't covered by public health services. How does it look like? When you are filling in the forms, this undertaking is already there. It is one of the forms. You simply download it, then you fill it in, then you sign it, and this is how you actually are promising. It's kind of a contract between you and the government, which you have to follow if the application for sponsorship is approved. So if your spouse or partner or whoever receives social assistance, you will have to pay back what they received during the time you are legally responsible for them. There are certain periods of obligations, which I will cover a little bit later, for how many years you will be responsible for them. And if it happens that they apply for certain social assistance, then you as a person sponsoring them will have to repay it back. And you won't be able to sponsor anyone else until you've repaid that amount. The undertaking will stay in effect for the length of the undertaking period, even if your situation changes. Let's say you divorce, you break up. No one cares. You're continuing having your undertaking obligation. The undertaking won't be canceled, even if the person you sponsor becomes a Canadian citizen, or you become divorced, separated, or your relationship with the sponsored person breaks down, or you or the person you sponsor move to another province or country, or you have financial problems. Again, no one cares. Your obligation is your obligation. If you change your mind after you submit the sponsorship application and undertaking, let's say something happens once you submitted the application, but there is no decision yet, you must write to the immigration department, to the IRCC, a letter before a final decision is made on the file, and submit the letter as an attachment through the IRCC web form. You can only withdraw an undertaking if IRCC approves the withdrawal. It's very important to remember that if something happens and there is no decision yet, there is still possible to make a step back, and this step back is, as you can see, possible. What's the length of undertaking, meaning that for how long you are responsible for that person you are sponsoring. So if you are a Canadian or permanent resident and you're sponsoring a spouse or common law partner or a conjugal partner, it's 3 years. 3 years since the application is approved. If you are sponsoring a dependent child over 22 years of age, it's 3 years. But again, the situation with dependent children is very narrow, and I'll cover it a bit later. If you are sponsoring a dependent child under 22 years of age, it's either 10 years or until the child becomes 25 years old, whichever comes first. But well, Quebec has different rules, and I'm not going to cover them. It's this length of undertaking is a federal standard, which is not applied in Quebec, but is applied in all other provinces and territories. We have two application classes. They are family class and spouse or common law partner in Canada class. So the family class is for those who when the person you want to sponsor lives outside Canada, and the person you want to sponsor currently lives with you in Canada but doesn't plan to stay in Canada while the application is being processed. Let's say the person was here on the visa, but they're planning to go back to their home country and waiting for the decision there. Then, yeah, family class is for them. Or if you're sponsoring your conjugal partner or a dependent child, they're always going to the family class. If it is the spouse or common law partner in Canada class, if your spouse or common law partner lives with you in Canada, meaning that you are having everything together, you're living under the same roof and building your life together, and also your spouse or common law partner has valid temporary resident status in Canada or is exempt from needing this status under the public policy. So again, valid temporary resident status in Canada or an exemption from needing this status under a public policy, meaning that your partner must have, let's say, work permit or a study permit or a visitor record or whatever temporary resident status your partner or spouse has. Now to the dependent children. It's a little bit different with them, but there are just like minor details, you know. Your child or the child of your spouse or common law partner can be considered a dependent child if that child meets the requirements below on the day IRCC receives your complete application. So they are under 22 years old, meaning that when you submit an application and your child is still 21, but at the day of the decision, they are already 22, they are considered 21 for the purposes of this application. So once the application is submitted, it's 21. And also they don't have a spouse or common law partner, meaning that your child who is up to 22 years old, they shouldn't be married or they shouldn't have a common law partner. Because once they're married or they have a common law partner, they are not dependent children anymore. Children 22 years old or older qualify as dependents if they meet both of these requirements. They have dependent on their parents for financial support since before the age of 22, and they are unable to financially support themselves because of a mental or physical condition. So it's all together. They are dependent on their parents for financial support, and they also have mental or physical condition. If there is no mental or physical condition, but they are just dependent on their parents financially, it doesn't count. With the exception of age, dependents must continue to meet these requirements until IRCC finishes processing your application. Yeah, I also leave here the link for the tool to find out if your child is a dependent or not, and you will be able to use it once the presentation is over and when you get the materials, and you will get them today. Yeah, so the next one, how does the model in general works? Here on the slide, you can see the fees, which are relevant for the 2026 on the top right. This simplified process model is really simplified. It eliminates several steps, several like minor steps, but it covers the main ones. So you're creating a profile on PR portal, then you choose family, and then you select necessary category, then you fill out all forms carefully, provide documents and pay fees, and then you wait for the decision. So if you're in Canada, then you receive your electronic confirmation of permanent residence, submit your photo, and you wait for the PR card. But if you're living outside Canada, then you send your passport for an immigration visa as specified in the decision letter. You get your passport with your visa and COPR, come to Canada within terms specified in your visa. Then you wait for your PR card at the Canadian address you provided at the border port of entry. Now, a very important part of all the family sponsorship, it's the genuineness of a relationship. It's literally around what all the family sponsorship is built. And this genuineness of relationship has several components which are necessary to meet when you are filing an application for your loved ones. I'm not meaning that it's those who are wanting to get the permanent residence, they're filing the application. But well, it's very important for everyone, for every side. Number one is history and development of the relationship. You have to tell your story. You have to tell how, when, and where the couple meet when you met each other. If you had engagement and marriage, you have to provide all the details about the engagement period, wedding ceremony, like the size, who were the attendants, if you did follow traditions, and so on. You have to tell the officer about the time spent together, and you have to provide evidence of the amount of time the couple has spent physically together. There might be different evidence. I'll cover it a bit later. And then you have to also tell about the development of the relationship over time, meaning that what steps and milestones you had in your relationship, like when you met each other, when you started dating, when you realized that you're the right person, when did you propose, when did you marry, how your marriage develops, if you have children together, and so on and so forth. So it's all the steps of a relationship. The second is communication. It's about the ongoing contact and frequency and nature of communication, meaning that you have to provide proofs of regular communication through letters, emails, text messages, phone calls, video calls, and social media. And here, the officer is actually evaluating if the communication is consistent and if it reflects a committed relationship. Number three, very important again, is financial aspects. If you have shared finances or not, if there is someone financially supported another side. So it's evidence of joint bank accounts, credit cards, shared ownership of property, joint bills, proof of financial interdependence, such as one partner supporting each other, supporting the other. Number four is about the social aspects. It's about the public recognition of the relationship, meaning that how your relationship is perceived by others, by your friends, by your relatives, by your parents, and so on. There should be also provided evidence of living together, meaning of cohabitation, which are documents showing the same address, such as like leases, utility bills, official correspondence, and so on. Also, they are checking the knowledge of each other's background and family, meaning that what's your level of understanding of each other, what you know about each other's family, their history, and friends. And also, they are looking at the involvement with each other's families, meaning that what's the evidence of interaction and relationship with each other's families. Yeah, and they're looking for a genuine commitment to a shared life. The next one is commitment and intent to build a life together. What are your plans for the future? Here, you have to provide evidence of your shared future plans, like if you are planning to do something together, like you're planning to move together, to have children together, to raise a family, to make it bigger, and so on. Also, it's about shared responsibilities. It's an evidence of sharing household works and responsibilities, and as well as emotional support, indicators of emotional interdependence and support of each other. Usually, it is evaluated through your communications, through your emails, through your text messages, through your photos, and so on. Now, documentary evidence. If you are married, of course, it's a marriage certificate. If you're married, an official copy of the marriage certificate should be provided. Also, if you were married before, you have to provide divorce certificates from all your previous marriages. Also, you have to provide photographs, then travel documents if you did travel together, like flight tickets, boarding passes, passport stamps, and so on. Letters and cards, like let's say if you're given a letter or like a greeting card for a certain occasion, like let's say happy birthday cards, happy new year, or Merry Christmas cards, and others. Meaning that, if there is a certain celebration which you're celebrating together and together with the gift you are given the card. Also, statements from friends and family. They might be necessary, but not always. Usually they are provided when there is a lack of certain type of documentation, and it might be affidavits or letters from people you know, and who know you and who know the couple and who are aware of the development of the relationship. And also proof of previous marital status. As I told you before, it's divorce certificates or death certificates if either partner was previously married. Number 7 is interviews. Interviews are not happening very often, but they are happening. And usually people are invited for the interview if an officer has something to discuss, that they have some doubts and they need to clarify certain aspects of your life in order to make sure that you meet the criterion of genuineness of relationship. So yeah, they may conduct those interviews. That's why if you're invited for an interview, you really have to be prepared very good, because they will be asking everyday questions, and in most cases people are interviewed separately, one after another, and they are asked similar questions. And if you are answering those questions differently, like let's say, what did you have for breakfast? And and what did you and your partner have for breakfast? And you said, well, we had I don't know, fried eggs. And your partner says, well, we had broccoli and rice. Something's wrong here, right? You have to have a similar answer here, but this is like a very easy question. Questions may be much trickier than this. So I'm not going to stop on this slide. This is just for you to sum up, and I will just skip the slide, so when you're watching the presentation or when you're going through the presentation, you can have a look at it yourself. This is just to sum up of what I just talked. As for sponsorship of parents and grandparents, it's not possible to submit an interest to sponsor your parent and/or grandparent at the moment, since IRCC suspended and accepted new interests to sponsor until further notice. Well, actually saying IRCC does not allow to send them those interests to sponsor parents or grandparents since 2021. It was possible to sponsor parents or grandparents from 2021 until today, only for those who has applied before, let's say in 2020, or only for those who are going through certain public policies, like let's say family sponsorship for Ukrainians. But that's it's a very different story. Instead of that, if you want your parents or grandparents to come to Canada, you can apply for a super visa. And they can stay here in Canada for a prolonged time. So super visa is our next topic. So parents and grandparents can visit their children and grandchildren for 5 years at a time with a super visa. It provides multiple entries for a period of up to 10 years. Well, when it comes to an ordinary visa, it's usually half a year, right? Half a year if you want to Canada as a tourist. If you are a parent or a grandparent of a Canadian citizen or a permanent resident, then you can apply for a super visa and you can stay with your kids for 5 years at a time. There are certain eligibility criteria, and in order to be eligible for a super visa, you must have a host who is your child or grandchild, is at least 18 years old and lives in Canada, is a Canadian citizen, permanent resident of Canada, or registered Indian. You have to always meet or exceed the minimum necessary income. I will show that a little bit later. Then you have to have a letter inviting you to Canada that includes a promise of financial support for the duration of your visit, meaning that your child or grandchild, spouse, or common law partner can co-sign the letter if they are a Canadian citizen or permanent resident of Canada. It means that it's not only your child can write this letter. It means that your child's spouse or your child's common law partner can co-sign with them in order to meet the minimum necessary criteria if it's necessary. This letter has to also include the list with all the names and dates of birth and number of people included when you calculate your family size to determine the minimum necessary income. That's exactly what I'm going to talk about on next slides. You must also be outside Canada when you submit your application for a super visa. You must have your visa being printed by visa office outside Canada, and you have to wait for visa office instructions. You have to be allowed to enter Canada. You have to take an immigration medical exam, and you have to meet certain other conditions. And you cannot include dependents in this application, meaning that it's only you who is a parent or a grandparent who can be invited by your child or a grandchild who are Canadian citizens or permanent residents. Brothers, sisters, whoever are not included here. Never included. Some information related to specific documents. So alongside with regular documents needed for a visa application, like let's say filled in forms, a photo, financial proof, and other documents, a super visa application requires to provide the following specific documents together with regular documents. It's a letter of invitation from your child or grandchild, which I told you about at the previous slide. Then it's a proof that your host child or grandchild meets the minimum necessary income requirements, which I'm going to talk a little bit further. Then it's health insurance. Health insurance has its own requirements. I'm not going to stop on that, but yeah, your health insurance, if you're getting one, and you must get one, have to meet certain requirements. Then the proof of completing a medical exam with an approved panel physician has to be provided. Proof that your host is a Canadian citizen, a permanent resident of Canada, or a registered Indian should be provided, meaning it's a passport, citizenship certificate, PR card, or yeah, those documents. Then proof of your relationship to your host, its host birth certificate or baptismal certificate, another official document naming you as the parent or grandparent of your host. For example, let's say if I am a Canadian and they would like my mother to come here under the super visa, I have to provide my Canadian passport and I have to provide my birth certificate translated into English because I wasn't born in Canada. Yes, this is how it works. Then, when it comes to minimum necessary income requirements, your host child's or grandchild's spouse or common law partner may co-sign the letter of invitation, as I told you before, and provide proof of income to meet the minimum necessary income. So what does IRCC accept? So let's say if you are a Canadian or a permanent resident in Canada and you want your mother to come to Canada and you are single, you don't have anyone, then it should be, when we are looking at the table, number of family members, it should be 2 because it's you who are inviting and your mother who is going to be invited under the sponsorship. And it means that you have to have the income of $38,002 in the last year. Okay. Yeah, if you have more, that's even better, but this is the minimum you have to meet. So what IRCC accepts? IRCC accepts the last notice of assessment issued by the CRA. This is the most popular document and the most reliable document. It's also a good practice to include other documents like, let's say, T4s or T1s for the last tax year, pay stubs for the most recent 12-month period available, employment insurance benefit statements, a letter from an accountant confirming the annual income if self-employed, proof of other sources of income, like let's say pension statements, a letter from the employer stating the job title, job description, and salary, and bank statements. It's better to provide as much as you can. I would recommend you doing that. If let's consider the following situation: if you're a Canadian or permanent resident, you have a spouse, and you want to invite your mother, then in this case, your number of family members is 3 because it's you, your spouse, and your mother whom you're inviting. So the minimum necessary income you have to meet is 46,000. But since your spouse can co-sign with you to invite your mother, then this $46,720 is your mutual income with your spouse. Okay, so it's combined together. Let's say you had 30,000, your wife had 20,000, together you have 50,000, so you already meet the requirement if you would like to invite one person. But if, let's say, you have a spouse and you want to invite both of your parents, now it's 4 family members because it's you, your spouse, your mother, and your father. In this case, it's 56,724 income, which you have to have with your spouse. This is how it works. Other conditions to consider. So one must be a genuine visitor to Canada who will leave by choice at the end of their visit. So they shouldn't be like deported or something. And IRCC will consider applicants' ties to their home country, the purpose of visit, family and finances, and the overall economic and political stability of a home country. Super visa can be stamped only outside Canada. When we are talking about applicants' ties to their home country, it means that your parents, whom you are inviting, have to prove that they will go back to their home country after their allowed period of stay in Canada is over. Let's say 5 years, if they're allowed to stay here in 5 years, for 5 years. Then yeah, they should provide, let's say, their bank statements, their pay slips if they are still working, and other documents which actually show their financial independence and which show their ties to their home country, meaning if they have an apartment there which is their own, or if they have a house or whatever. Yeah. If an applicant is visa exempt, meaning that if your parent or grandparent comes from a visa exempt country, like let's say it's Spain or Italy or United States or Estonia or Norway or any other country which has a visa-free regime with Canada, in this case, an applicant can still get a super visa to stay in Canada for 5 years, because in regular situation, those people can come only for half a year maximum, but parents can apply for super visa, and if IRCC approves an application, it will issue a letter to give to a border services officer when an applicant arrives in Canada. If an applicant travels by air, they may also need to apply for an electronic travel authorization separately to allow to travel to and enter Canada. So yeah, this is the procedure for visa exempt nationals is different than for visa non-exempt nationals. The ETA will be electronically linked to the passport, so an applicant needs to travel with the passport they used to apply for ETA and any supporting documents for the super visa application. They have to carry those documents with them. A super visa does not authorize you to work or study in Canada. So basically saying a super visa is a document which allows you to stay in Canada, meaning your parents to stay in Canada, or your grandparents to stay in Canada. They're not authorized to work, they're not authorized to study, they will not get medical insurance, provincial medical insurance. That's why there is a requirement for health insurance. So it's basically, I would say it's the same tourist visa, but just for a prolonged time, because they don't have access to all the privileges temporary residents, let's say, have, meaning workers or students. Some words about the consultant's role, personal involvement, and quotients. What's the consultant role in your application? The main role of your consultancy is guidance. Your consultants are reviewing and advise, but they cannot guarantee approval. I mean, if you're hiring an immigration consultants, they guide you, they help you summarize your story, and legally you are responsible for your application, not your consultant. As for your personal involvement, you have to participate in the preparation of your application actively. You have to provide accurate, truthful information and be fully involved in preparing documents. Consultants can check the documentation provided by you, but they do not write on your behalf. So if you would like to make a submission on your own, you have to do that, and your consultant will check and give you recommendations if it's needed. Then success depends on your meeting program requirements and completeness of documents which you provide. That's why it's important in every immigration application to provide the full documentation package and maybe to exceed it a little bit. That's why it's really important to understand correctly the eligibility criteria and if you meet them. And if you don't meet them, what you can do about that and how to meet them. Then the readiness has to be realistic. Beware of consultants claiming you're ready to apply while you may not be. A responsible consultant will guide you on what is crucial and what needs improvement. And there are never guarantees. Remember, no consultant can guarantee success, but every consultant should do their work properly, meaning that every consultant should make sure that your application is prepared correctly and in line with all the requirements. As for misrepresentation and consequences, you have to remember that all the information you are submitting to Immigration Department, IRCC, must be true and correct. The information cannot be falsified. And the falsified personal information, meaning that there are incorrect identity details or history, Misrepresentation also includes omitting critical information. It's a failure to disclose important facts or changes. It's fraudulent documents when you submit forged or inaccurate documents and translations. It's inconsistent statements, like when you're contradicting information across documents, like let's say in the I don't know, in one application form you say you were divorced, in another application you say you've never been married before, and this is your first marriage. This is a contradicted information. Then misrepresentation of relationships. It's like when you're incorrectly representing relationships with family members. Let's say when you are, let's say, make a fraudulent marriage. This is misrepresentation of relationship. Then incorrect financial information when you're trying to hide or misreport assets or income. There are also consequences for that. Your application may be denied, rejected if misrepresentation is found. There might be legal repercussions, like misrepresentation may result in legal consequences, including a ban on reapplying and a ban for 5 years to enter Canada or to apply for anything. And there will be a loss of credibility. Future applications can be negatively affected due to a history of dishonesty. Since your previous applications, they are taken into consideration when your current application is being processed, despite the fact that every new application is evaluated on its own merits, your previous submissions are also important. That's why the information has to be consistent. So this is all with the information I wanted to tell you about the family sponsorship and super visa. We will be continuing having our immigration seminars after our summer break, and we haven't yet decided what topic will be next, but we will get back to you with our future topics. And I should also say that me and Elisa, we will be having immigration meetings. Let's say immigration meetings, right, Elisa? On the basis of CELS, Calgary Essential Language Solutions, when I will be in Calgary in September. So you will be
in person. We should say in-person meetings with you. In-person webinars or seminars.
Yeah, it will be in-person seminars in Calgary. I think there will be several of them. It will not be one. It will be several of them at different time during the day. So if you're in Calgary, you will be able to come and to ask questions and to get answers, and also to get
meet Andre in person.
Yes, with me in person. Yeah. So thank you so much, and I'm ready to answer your questions.
If there are any questions, please type them in the chat, guys, or you can just unmute yourself, unmute your mic, and tell us what your question is.
Yeah. So yeah, as I told you before, this topic is very limited. I would say it's far not everyone can apply under family sponsorship. It's only if you have really like Canadian relatives or and family members who are Canadian citizens or permanent residents. But yeah, I should say that family sponsorship is one of popular immigration programs, and it takes, if I'm not mistaken, around like 20 to 25% of all the permanent residency applications annually. So mostly it's economic applications, the majority of them, then it's family sponsorship applications. And it's quite a huge number of people who are coming here, be it sponsored by their Canadian fellow spouses or permanent or spouses or conjugal partners. Yeah.
Thank you very much, guys, for your comments. We appreciate your attendance today. Yeah, Valerie, go ahead. You have a question. Yeah, go ahead. You can unmute yourself.
Okay, let's consider maybe Valerie raised his hand accidentally.
Not sure. Valerie, can you hear us? I can see your hand is raised. If you have a question, please feel free to unmute or just type your question in the chat. Or, okay, I think he's re-entering now. Give me a second.
Hello. I'm so
Yes, you're
sorry.
back. Yeah.
Yeah. I would like to ask, I know it's all very individual. Every case is individual, and but like if my parents, they will be like more than 60 years when I would like them to bring them to Canada. Do I have any chances, and potentially how much money should I earn to be eligible to bring one parent to
Okay,
Canada? And
I got your question, Valery.
yeah.
So if you didn't, if your parents didn't apply for permanent residency through the Ukrainian pathway for the reunification, that very specific program under the public policy, and your parents are, let's say, in Ukraine, at the moment you will be able to only invite them via the super visa, and you have to meet certain financial requirements. So it's if it's only you in your family here, if you're not married, let's say, and if you're a Canadian citizen or a permanent resident already, and if you would like your mother to come to Canada, she can apply for a super visa. And you have to meet a minimum necessary income requirement for two people, you and your mother. If you have a spouse, it will be three people. Okay. If you are inviting your mother and your father, it will be four people. You got it, right?
But
So
it's only in the case when my spouse is dependable. What if my spouse is not dependable?
it doesn't work this way.
She has also her income. Does so the
It doesn't
government
work
still
this way.
consider me as I should? Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, if you have a family and if you have a family here in Canada and you're a Canadian and your spouse, your spouse is with you actually. When you're filing taxes, you're declaring who is your spouse, and all your benefits are calculated on the basis of your family size. So if you have a spouse, there will be you, your spouse, and your parent. If you're applying for a super
Okay.
visa. Yeah, it's three. Minimum
Okay.
necessary income for three people. It's annual
Gotcha.
income.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
No worries. Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, that was very informative. Great. Didn't regret that I spent an hour with you guys. Thank you so much. I appreciate
Thank you,
it.
Valery. We also appreciate your kind words. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other
Thanks.
questions, guys? Dimitri, do you have any questions?
Not at the moment. I'll think. It'll probably may take me some time to think about the questions, but I appreciate the information. That was very helpful.
Great. Okay, Tatiana, Victor, Olena, Mingan, anybody?
Okay, guys, let's have like 15-20 seconds. If there are no questions in the next 15-20 seconds, then we will finish the session. And you will get all the information today into your email. So you will be able to rewatch the presentation. You will be able to read more about that because I will also send you some materials to read so you can understand certain aspects of family sponsorship deeper than they were covered. Yeah, so you will have an opportunity to educate yourself.
Okay, great. Yeah, and our contact information for both Andres and my school will be included in that email. So if you are looking to book a consultation with Andre, everything will be provided by email. You can also book a consultation with myself if you're looking for language classes for yourself or for your family members. A reminder that we offer both English and French classes, as well as exam preparation. So if you're based in Calgary, you're welcome to attend our classes in person. If you're based outside of Calgary, we also offer online classes. All right.
Okay, guys,
Great.
thank you so much. It was pleasure having you. We will get back to you with our future topics of presentations, and those who are in Calgary, don't forget that you will be able to have a session with me in person and to ask your questions very soon.
In early September.
Yeah, I would say in mid-September, yeah.
Mid-September. Okay, I'm gonna pause the recording now.